All right, so this episode is a review of Tales from the Loop, episode 7, the next to the last episode. It opens up where George, who he's the one later you see growing up. He's the dad, right, with the one arm, the metal arm. But he's a kid. He's trying to fix the radio thing on his radio. He's fiddling with it, trying to get it to make noise. This show is it's really good about telling different stories in different time periods and making you try to figure out what time period it's in or even where it's in. So his friends are they have like a little zapper. It's like a little like a hot shot or something you see cattle prod type of thing, but they've pieced it together with the local technology and they're zapping things and they're trying to zap a snake. They keep trying to prank George. And then they tell him a story about there's a monster out on an island that's nearby. That's why no one's allowed to go over there. So they basically take a trip over there and then they leave him in. They leave him there at the island. So like at first it was tough to see if this was like a coming of age type of story, or if it was if they're just trying to be mean to him and prank him and like does everybody go through this? But no, it's just George, right? They leave him there overnight. It He doesn't really show whether he's really upset about it or just scared. He finds some old radio pieces washed up on the shore. He's trying to fix one. A screeching noise behind him, and then he like freaks out, turns around, hurts his arm, runs into the forest, sees a tent, runs away from that. I think he hides in a log like overnight, like a specific log, to get away because he saw something moving in there with weird red eyes. He wakes up, his arm's infected, and there's ants crawling over it because under the log is where the ants were, and so he goes back to the tent. Oh, that's when he hears the thing and sees the red eyes, hides from it. He tries to use his little shocker that his friends were using to shock it. Hurts it a little bit. It looks kind of weird looking. It looks kind of like number 5 alive, right? Little weird thing on the island, humanoid shape. He runs off, passes out on the beach. A boat sees him, picks him up. Then you see him wake up in the hospital, and he's had to have his arm amputated because it was infected. His dad's asking him a bunch of questions about the island, tells him not to tell anybody about what happened on the island or what he saw there. But then he makes him a robotic arm. Then it goes back to the future when he's, present day, if you can say such a thing in the show, when he's with his wife. He hears an electric crackling noise on his radio, and he shouts at his son for using the taser. So he maybe he has it tuned to where the taser makes a certain noise. So at night he goes in and keeps fiddling with the radio to try to get that right frequency. He hears a screeching noise, and then you can tell he's thinking about the island because that's where he last heard the screeching noise. And he goes to his mom, who she's older now. Grandpa's passed away recently, and he asks her about the island and if Dad ever talked about the island. She basically responds. She doesn't respond with "No, we never mentioned the island," or she just basically blurts it out like the thing on that island was a child to him, and people didn't understand it, and so he had to leave it there. But then he learned that robot was his first, and he learned that he had to make them more like us. So that, of course, in my mind, as soon as she says that, it's like, oh, light bulb. Like, who else has he made that's android-like that could actually be an android? Which we find out later in the episode, someone is. And she basically believes that he got snake bit, and that's why he lost his arm in the story. So he basically decides he's going to go back to the island, and see if it's still there because he heard the screech, right? And he goes back, and then he approaches the robot thing, and of course it's damaged from the time he heard it years ago. He apologizes. Oh, he apologizes too for hurting the robot, and he gives the robot his robot arm, so it will have its arm back, an arm back. So that to me that was kind of interesting, kind of touching. That he realized its arm was damaged because of what he did. So here's one. Kind of convenient that same type of injury that he had, and it wasn't a leg or something, But that seems to me like the way the writers just did that to try to make it symbolic. But yeah, it also gets the mind thinking about who could be an android in the town. That who did Grandpa build to be into an android? All that's pretty interesting. So I really like this show. I hope they bring it back. I haven't looked up yet whether it's renewed or not. It reminds me of Electric Dreams, how it's a bunch of short stories, science fiction short stories. I loved reading Science Fiction Hall of Fame as a kid and all the cool stories in there. Or what was it? Outer Limits was good about that. Even the new Outer Limits in the 80s did that with the weird twist at the end. The show reminds me of those. It's not quite Twilight Zone because they all take place together. And I haven't seen the new Twilight Zone to know if it's good or not. But this show isn't as good as Twilight Zone, but it's a good, decent episodic science fiction show, like with standalone stories. I hope they do a season 2. Again, I haven't looked up to see whether they're doing it or not. I love the show. I recommend the show. And I would say if you like my content, please like and subscribe. And thanks.